We had a summer school graduation, and in that graduation, we had 118 students who graduated as a part of a graduation. 98 participated in the ceremony, but the total was 118. So, just for clarification, I'd like to say that not all of these students were students who had to catch up or maybe make up one course or whatever. Some of these students actually graduated ahead of time and will be going on to college. So it was a very great turnout. We did it at Lehigh in the auditorium, and the auditorium was packed with family and friends and well-wishers. So it was a really, really, really great turnout. We were very proud of those 118 students who completed this summer.
When was the graduation?
It was about 2 weeks ago now, maybe 3. At Lehigh.
Thank you.
Okay. So, yeah, I'm hearing that maybe you all didn't get an invitation to know about it, so I'll make sure that next go round. I was invited myself to attend, and so I did, but I'll make sure the next go round you all are aware of that also. Okay? So, again, we're trying to make sure that our students are completers, and so with them being able to finish during the summer, they are considered completers, and so that's a good thing for MPS. Also, secondly, I'd like to tell you that in your packet tonight, you have some information we'll be getting with you, but under priority 2, several of those directives that go along with it, you'll find under there some information about a possible retreat and some dates from the board. Some of you may be curious about why we're doing this now, but it is one of our priorities that we've been given by Advanced Ed. We have to upload information between now and probably the second week in November. So there are some things that we have to do. We put that laminated sheet next to your table so that you can see just a bird's eye view of what those priorities are and what those directives are, so that if you need a quick reference, you can look at it and see that. So we'll be getting in touch with you about a possible date and time for this retreat. There will be 2 sessions, and we're going to try to work it around what's convenient for you. We gathered this information from Susan Salter. These are the dates right now that work for her. So we're going to try to match it with what works for you in order for us to start the continuation of the addressing priority 2, and in this case, directives 1, 2, and 5. So we will be getting with you to see which one of those dates work for you. At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Rowland to give you a brief overview and give you a few updates on the Advanced Ed, how we're moving along on that. This is a report to the board. Mr. Rowland, you will give a brief overview of where we are now.
I noticed you said brief twice, Doctor.
Yes, I did.
So let me say good evening to you.
It's 2 minutes.
Yes, sir.
You said 2 minutes, max time I have to speak.
Yeah, yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, yes, sir. And so as my associate Tom, how do you max for me up top? Can you maximize that?
That is,
Okay. So, you received a copy of the Advanced Ed report, May 31st. At the last board meeting, we talked about how it is set up, what the expectations were, what was guiding the work, how the priorities were grouped, how from those priorities you had directives, and gave you a little bit more in-depth understanding of how we're doing the work and what it meant. Then what we went back and started doing was adding all the steps that we had taken along the way with these directives. You might want to use the microphone. All right, I'll go there. Being directed to come back here.
testing. How far can I go? This way? All right.
Okay, so we went back and we started adding the steps that we were addressing under the directives. So if you would, Tom, if you would just scroll that up just a little bit, I wanted to point out that under priority 1, it says review, revise, and comply with all board policies, state laws, and directives. And so what that basically means is as laws change, as policies are amended and updated, we are working to do what we need to do to get those things in place, especially for the school year. So let's look at Directive 2, where it says collaborate with state intervention teams. Now there you go. NPS superintendent, NPS district level staff to develop document of policy review, revision, and adoption schedule and timeline in compliance with the board policy. So one of the things that we're doing is every time that we complete one of these steps, we add it as a bullet point under these directives. When you see these directives, adding bullets as we go, that does not mean that it's completed. That means that we're adding steps as we do it each time because it's continuous improvement and it's an ongoing process. Go on with it, Tom. Make sure that all school board policies align with state laws. June 15, receive red line copy of manual. Ms. Pitts is in HR and chief of staff. Dr. Moore in receipt of early red line drafts. They will start working those, submitting those. You'll start seeing those on board agendas and work sessions. All right? Identify and document the structure of the policy committee and policy coordinator and policy review. August 10th, 2018, Dr. Moore Kim Pitts to establish policy review council. Who will that be made up of? There'll be principals, and there'll be some parents, and there'll be some other folks you just kind of mentioned. Community folks. And so there are several people that will make up that council. So we're putting the plans in place to start rolling that out. Slide down, Tom. Let's look at priority 2, all right? This, we won't go into a bunch of detail on because Dr. Moore's gonna mention this in just a little bit. Develop, document, implement, and adhere to the code of ethics policy which defines specific roles and responsibilities for members of the school board, all right? We had conversations initially early with AASD. For example, one of the things that you guys did back in May was a self-assessment. All right, well, there's some things that the directives pointed out that you needed to do. So let's look at some of these things that we had in place. July 10th, received communication. It's the AASB staff regarding day-long board retreat. In August or September, okay? What are we gonna talk about? We're gonna talk about operating procedures and agreements. We're gonna talk about team building, all right? Superintendent board prioritizing NPS needs. One of the things that you guys discussed early on was you wanted more information about achievement data. So as we're doing these work sessions and these board trainings, we can take the people that touch that data, right? And we can supply you with not just an example of how you do that, but with actual NPS data. And this is relevant and timely because this is a time of the year where we're taking our data back from last year. And we're doing what we do with it, and we're analyzing it and disaggregating it and making our plans for what we're gonna do with our instructional program and how we're gonna use that data to make real decisions in the classrooms in the schools right now. All right, go down just a tad bit, Tom. Literature review and a case study. All right, so one of the directives says conduct a literature review and case study. So one of the things that's going on is Dr. Moore communicated with ASB. They talked about tentative dates for board training and potential case studies regarding certain issues that board members deal with. Lots of issues that board members deal with, a myriad of things that board members do and engage with and interact with. So that could be one of the topics for what you focus on. Or it could be a team building, how board members work together book study. Right? So Dr. Moore has more in-depth conversation that she wants to have with you about that, but we're putting those things in place. All right?
While you're doing that,
Yes.
before you get past that, you mentioned tests and data and what have you. Now, the tests that they took at the end of the year,
Okay.
the spring of the year last year, I understand that information is back, but it's being dated, so how is that gonna play into what they're supposed to be doing with the students this 9 weeks?
Okay. So typically what happens is you look at the data that you get back because the group that you have your scores on in the summer is the next year's grade at this time of the year. So if we're testing 3rd grade, we get 3rd grade scores back in August, but those kids are now in 4th grade. So you're not gonna do what you would have done with 3rd graders now that they're in 4th grade. But what you're doing is you look at your practice of how your teachers planned and what their focus was and what their anchor standards were and what their priorities were in the class. And you're gonna make adjustments to that for the upcoming year's third graders. But you can look at where those kids are. We're doing a lot of, well, let me give you this example. I've visited about 30 schools in the past 7 days of school being in. You'd be amazed at the number of schools that are already doing this year's beginning benchmark test for the kids. So even though that data came back in the summer, teachers and principals don't rely solely on that data to determine how they're gonna handle their kids this year. So the third day of school in a bunch of elementary schools, they were already doing current information. They want to do current benchmarking, current testing right now to get relevant and timely data right this second on where the kids are, so that they can make a plan for this whole year. So basically the pretest. But with a lot of the materials that we use and the resources that we use, that pre-testing that they're doing can unfold a whole bunch of resources and materials for them. So if it's one of the online modules and you take that pre-test, it actually will break out a bunch of sections of activities and things for them to do. So they do it for a lot of reasons. One, to kind of tell you where you are right now, but also to unlock resources for those kids throughout the first semester. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm a counselor.
Yes, ma'am. All right. All right, Tom, we are on, let's go to, the next one. If you are still on priority 2, if you'll scroll down to directive 5. All right, so we were talking about, for example, how one of the directives with the board governance piece called for you guys to complete the self-study. Well, that's already done. So what we were trying to do is update you with only the data and the information that was relevant in what we were doing now. But that's relevant now because the work that we're gonna do with AESD and Dr. Moore this year with you guys is based on what you did with that self-study in May. Okay, so we went ahead and left that on there. So I wanted you to be aware that we were leaving that there, even though we're trying to touch on all the things that we're gonna do moving forward. So August 9th, superintendent requested support from AASB and added Directive 6 to the agenda. All right. Participating in professional development focused on board governance prior to the next accreditation engagement review. So you can see the dates when she was asking for those things. So there are a couple of opportunities for work sessions, and there's even a possibility of some things that Advanced Ed may have as board training and board governance, but we're just leaving that as tentative and to be announced. Okay? Now we can go to priority 3. So I'm gonna go a little bit more detail than this one, and then they said be brief, so I'll close it down after this and then open it for any questions that you may have, board members. So priority 3 is one of the groups, the committee groups, priority committee groups that I serve on. Debbie Cook is a co-chair, Tom is the chair, and so what we've been doing and what we were charged with as our directors was reevaluate the effectiveness of the org chart. So we've been doing that, looking at the org chart, identifying some of the pieces that are in place, looking at some of the pieces that need to change, and having dialogue and conversation, all right? August 9th, we met again in the priority committee to review the org chart and the draft, and we have some recommendations. We finish those recommendations. We share those forward with HR and chief of staff. The superintendent has a draft of a copy that she's working with. I think that will be presented shortly. She's gonna share that with the department. August 13th, review and recommendation to HR is coming from the superintendent. That's yesterday. So August 15th, the superintendent will present revised draft. We're hoping this week to state part of the org chart.
Just for their review.
Yes, that's what
And
we're
eventually for board approval.
Priority 2, ensuring principals are accountable for communicating information to their staff. So priority, so priority 3 committee has the responsibility of ensuring accountability with the principals of the communication of all the things that we're doing as we're moving throughout Advanced Ed. We are meeting after our principals council tomorrow. We're gonna talk, all of our committee groups are gonna meet, we're gonna talk about some of the work that's been going on. We're talking about, just as an activity or part of our strategy, we're sharing how we're encouraging the use and the pushing out of social media. I don't know if you've noticed that. I don't know if you've noticed an increased activity with our schools and what they're doing with social media. Several people have made comments about it and said that they were impressed with how principals were sharing the information of what's going on in their schools. July 30th, we created a schedule for the principal meetings, and so what's gonna happen is all the things that we talked about in our executive council, which will go down to the departmental meetings, they'll leave from the departmental meetings and go to the leadership council. From the leadership council, the principals will take it back to their school faculty meetings. From those faculty meetings, they'll meet with their A-team. That's what they're calling their teams from this transformational principal workshop we've been doing. That school leadership team is called an A-team. Those A-teams will receive that information. They'll talk to the department heads or the grade level heads. Those teachers will get feedback back up the chain to the A-team, it'll go back to the principal. The principals can share it in the council can share it back to the department head meeting, and then it makes its way back up to the executive table. So the communication is going back and forth, up and down the line throughout the organization. And that's one of the things that Advanced Ed called for, was more transparency in how we were doing that. So we've established that flow chart and know how all of that works. So we're gonna be clarifying and reiterating that tomorrow after our council meeting with all of our principals. One of the other things they asked for was routine, regular meetings designed to strengthen that communication. So there are tons of things. Tom, we'll go through these real quick. We do weekly reports, we do monthly leadership council meetings, we have a flow chart now that shows how the principals are gonna be meeting and take that information back. We have a plan that we're gonna share with them tomorrow to make sure that they're doing that, and then as part of the committee groups, each one of those priority group leaders will meet and show up and attend their principal meetings just to make sure that they're communicating like they should. This is not an I gotcha, just to be there as support to ensure that accountability that they're asking for. All right, provide accurate information in a timely manner, okay? Well, there's a communication plan that's in place, it's been in place. We're gonna make sure that it gets in the hands of the right people. We do daily NPS communication. The staff sends positive information back and forth via social media. First of each month, the superintendent does an article for the Parents Magazine. All right, we have the Parent Info NPS site. We're gonna upload this presentation to that. The July 29th, you had the back to school guide. Lots of people love that. 30,000 copies went out through the advertiser. Principals are required to increase their social media presence. We're asking every principal to do their part in helping tell their story, right? Like they wanted to be told. You do it faster than anybody else. You can do it more frequently than anybody else. So we're asking that they're doing minimum, on average, some type of connection and retweeting, reposting, Facebook posting. We're trying to hit minimum 10 posts per week, right? We're gonna develop and implement effective strategies and a process to collaborate with the local municipalities. We started meeting with the chamber early. Go up, Tom. Even yesterday, I think, you go down August 13th, superintendent met with the mayor of the chamber and the county commission to provide their intervention update. You look at those times throughout there, we're doing things all the time, working with, partnering with. I know the chamber, we had a great meeting last week where we talked about economic opportunities in STEM as it relates to the Air Force Base. So just tons of great things going on and how we're touching and connecting with the community. Lastly, review and update board policies concerning communication. We've identified those policies. We started marking through those policies. We're sharing it with HR and the chief of staff. That's going back to that addition with the red line. We're gonna put that into the section that will be presented in the next work sessions to come. And we've already dropped off our first copy of our revised additions to them. And so we'll be ready to present those in the work session soon. So I'm gonna kind of end that today for my brief presentation, but we'll have copies, we'll have it uploaded, and we'll have some to share. Questions, Mr. Chairman?
Thank you for that. Wonderful, okay? It was great.
You said we were gonna get hard copies.
Yes, appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd also like to add that this morning I met with, Montgomery. for about an hour and a half, very good meeting with, that group. I'm also scheduled to, meet with, leadership Montgomery sometime in the next few weeks. So there are lots of, I believe, Kiwanis, I'm right there on my phone. So, there are lots of opportunities for us to be out and about and talking to people in the community about what they're doing, as we move forward in LPS. So at this time, also, I'd like to say before we go to the next part, is that we'd like to welcome, Dr. Boyd from the State Department. State, Deputy Superintendent is with us tonight, so we want to tell him welcome, and we're glad to see him. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, so as we move on now, we'll go to our report by, Ms. Pitts regarding personnel budget reductions.
Good evening. Chairperson, board members, and of course, our superintendent. In your packet, you received in your packet a copy of this report, but then I gave you a revised sheet. And I see one more thing that I need to revise, so we'll get on with the report, and then I'll tell you what that is. You have the positions that affected our general fund. Our goal was to reduce our general fund with personnel, regardless of the level, but to reduce the amount of money that we pay out to personnel that is actually in our general fund that we actually pay for. So, you don't have people there, but you do have positions. And I'm not gonna read that to you, but I want you to look at them, and then I wanna highlight a couple of them. When you see education specialists, and you see it's a very low amount, that's because in some of these cases, portions of those salaries are paid from another fund source. And what I've tried to document is just those things that actually impact our general fund. So the amount you see there, the 41,003, that part is going to be relieved from the general fund. And then the other portion would be in the general fund. Anytime we try to make a move and take things out of the general fund that could be paid out of title, then we did that, which makes a lot of sense. If it could and should be paid out of title, we did that. Additionally, I want you to look down at insurance and benefits. For all of these positions, insurance and benefits have to be paid because these are full-time employees. Insurance, of course, is at $9,600 per employee. And then right now, the rate for our benefits is 19.97%. In the 2018 year, it will be a 20% will be the going rate for that. I told you I saw a mistake on there, and I see a misspelled word, and I'm just a stickler for that. If you look at the word technician, it should be T-E-C-H, so please correct that. And I don't know why spell check didn't catch it, but it didn't, but I did, so we're good. Questions about anything on this sheet, I'll be happy to explain. Dr. Keith?
The one, I guess the one that I have, the executive director at 95407. No, wait, that's not it, I don't know. It's the principal lead, first principal lead. Our first principal lead left in December.
That's right.
Okay, and it says it came from January.
Right, because
Why are we
he left,
doing that?
because he left in December, but I'm looking at the time that we actually stopped his pay based on what his paperwork said, which was January 1. And then if that part still counts, because you still have to pay him, you have to pay him a portion of his salary. So we took the whole salary out, and I could have just shown you what portion of that was, but I'm not your finance person, I'm just your HR person. But I could show you that. But all of these are still counted in our budget for this past year. We have not gotten into the new budget. If you approve the report tonight, that you're gonna get the personnel report, you will see some other cost reductions in there that will count this next time. That's the question.
And I think another concern I had, you know, whether it's true or not, but if we're letting them go and not replacing them, but yet picking them up with Title I funds, then we, you know, where do we really save there?
Well, you gotta think about the difference, what we're talking about. Title I funds are granted to us by the federal government, right? Your operating expense that you're required to have that 1 month comes from your general fund.
But I think, Kim, to make the public believe that although you got rid of the central office person, but then you turned around and hired them back to Title I.
Not necessarily.
Rescinding
Not necessarily. The one that I pointed out, this person was paid completely out of your general fund. But what we realized is that because they spend most of their time in a Title I school, Title I should have been picking up a portion of that salary. The rest of these on here are people that we don't intend to replace. Does that make sense? Kind of, sort of?
You know, you can twist anything you want to, but you know,
Well, that's
it
not
is what it
twisted.
is.
I'm not the money person, I don't do well with
Let's
twisting
help
money,
you out
this is
just
my
a little
own.
bit, just a little.
Yes.
So your federal dollars are designed to help a school district or help a school get some of the things that it would not ordinarily get. So it's perfectly legitimate to take them out of one fund and put them into another. Well, the federal dollars have to be spent, or you will have what's called carryover. You can only have so much in carryover up to a certain point. So you're obligated to spend that money, or you could lose it. So if you can move people out of your general fund and into your federal funds, that is a special pot of money. So you indeed are saving out of your general fund money.
But
And you
to a
use in your
degree, I
title.
get it, but to a degree, it's deceiving for Dr. Mackey to go, I need 1.2 in reductions. To, okay, here's your reductions. Then pick them up over in Title I, I'm like, I mean, let's give the whole picture.
But that's perfectly legitimate.
I get it.
Maybe if you meet with us. and
No,
we
I
can
mean, I see that it's
explain it to you.
legitimate, but I just think the public needs to know that, you know, to go, hey man, we got rid of these central office folks. We need to go, hey man, no, Title I, pick them up.
Well, for the most part, we did. Most of these positions, other than the one that I indicated, are positions that we're not planning to replace.
Oh, I see, I'm just picking the ones that I noticed.
It's just one.
Okay.
Additionally, think about Title I funds are used to supplement what we're doing. When we can't, have the things that we need, Title I kicks in to supplement, to make sure that our programs do work, to make sure that we do have adequate people in buildings, whether it's at the central office level or if it's at the school. It's meant just to supplement pretty much what we don't have, if that makes sense.
I have one quick question. And this is something that's triggered in my mind. You said that the principal reason, I'm just looking at them because I remember that was a concern, initially. And it was told to us that, they were in the Title I, so I'm just surprised to see that they were in general fund.
When they were hired, they were in the general fund. They were. When we realized that most of our schools are Title I schools, we moved them all out of the general fund and we put them in the Title I budget, because they're serving Title I schools.
Right.
But initially, they were all out of the general fund. Actually called payroll to get their code in. Their code just tells you which fund source it comes from. And their initial fund source was all general fund.
I was surprised when I remember what they said and what was said initially.
And I'm
Not
gonna
by
be
you,
honest
but it was doing with it.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, when I had to prepare this, I had to call for each of these because I was shocked at those. Those were initial ones that I didn't include in this report until I was told, no, we moved this one from here to here. So then, of course, I had to do some investigating. Like I said, I'm not the finance person, but I do know the difference between the two pots of money, and I know how you can legally move it. And they were indeed moved from one fund source to the other. And so we count that as a savings, because no longer will our general fund have to pick up those salaries, nor their benefits, nor their insurance. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so next on our, under our information, we have the enrollment update, Dr. Kathleen Lee.
Good evening.
Good evening. Ma'am, you want me to pass these out?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, gotcha. I was trying to be reading, hold on.
Okay, so everyone has a packet with our latest enrollment numbers as of today's poll. Your very top sheet, you will see that we have our district overview. So you see that our numbers that are broken down by elementary, middle, and high, as well as a comparison from today's date to where we were with our 20-day report on last year. So as you go across that report, you will see that we are slightly down for our enrollment for this school year. But we are almost balanced for what has been projected to come to us in high now. I included a report behind your summary so that you can see what our status is for each school. So with the very next page, it is the overall listing for each school so that you will see where they were for their 20-day report last year and where we are as of today with our latest pool. You will see how that compares to what's in I now and where each school balances. And just in case you want to dive in a little bit deeper, there is a third set of reports in your packet that shows you how enrollment has changed grade by grade for all of the schools in the district. We will have another pool on Thursday, and with each day, our numbers have increased. Are there any questions?
This is just a 7-day count. We will begin the 20-day count once that happens.
Absolutely, yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this is, the work session is now adjourned. We will move directly into the special call board meeting. So at this time, the special call board meeting is now called to order. We do have a quorum. Let's have a motion to approve the revised agenda.
Mr. President, I move that we set the agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we approve the revised agenda for the special call board meeting. So continue to discussion. Those who are in favor of the motion, okay? Have 6 pages. 6. First item on our agenda is to go into executive session for a conference. Motion to go into executive session.
Mr. President, I move that we go into executive session for real property.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded that we go into executive session. That's real property. Those who are in favor, see motion, please. Those who are in favor, is 6. We're going to be in Georgia. We'll be going to Georgia in about 15 minutes. Should return in about 15 minutes. There are no decisions, no voting will be taking place on our executive session. And at this time, we'll continue with the special call meeting. The next item on the agenda will be consider for approval of personnel reports, and Dr. Moore will present that.
Okay, at this time, I recommend approval of the personnel report, certified personnel, and addendum 1.
Mr. President, I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the personnel report, certified personnel, and addendum 1.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded that we approve the superintendent's recommendation on the personnel report, certified personnel, as well as addendum 1. Any discussion? Those who are in favor, let's say aye. Any discussion? All right.
Okay, item 14. Okay, item 14, which one are you talking about?
On the certified.
Certified, I believe this is certified, let's see, yeah, certified. Item 14 and item 20.
14 and 20.
Right. You have
Let me get 14 and 20. 14, okay.
an accountability interventionist. Okay, I looked on our December 4th personnel, where you guys had sent out, all the job descriptions. Not ever seen, I'm wanting to call these made-up jobs, and I've never heard of an accountability. Where'd that come from? Ms. Gibbs, right there. 14 and 20.
Okay. Let me explain how that came about and what that is. And I actually brought, because it is a new position, as far as, when I say new, the name is new. It's something that's been revamped that we have already. Let me explain the background to it. We met with every principal and gave them their report card again in the spring. We did it once in the winter and then once in the spring. And we released, if you remember, all of those people out of Title I that we could if they were not tenured in that spot. Because one of the suggestions from the board was not to have what you consider to be made-up positions, because do we really need them, was the question. So we released everyone that we could, which is the majority of them. And then when we sat down with their report card, it was the director of federal programs, the principal, any team member that they had, someone else from HR, and we took those old job descriptions and said, okay, what impact has this position, not person, what have they done to impact your report card to make it better? If they couldn't give us an excuse, they couldn't have that position then. So we said, okay, let's look at what your issues are in your school, and we did each school differently, because every school is not the same. What are the deficits? If you had a math and a reading deficit, okay, what can we do? What do you need to make sure that math school scores and reading scores are improved? What can we do? So we actually wrote a job description based on the things that they said, and most of these kind of looks like the old SIAs. Some of these look like the old SIAs when I look back, and I guess maybe I've been here too long, but you remember we used to have school-wide instructional assistants. It kind of looks like that. But we took down things that they really had to do, and we made sure they were not being quasi-administrators, that they're working with teachers, they're working with students, they're pulling small groups, the things that we know that best practices say. Title I director looked at it and said, okay, is this something that federal funds can pay for? Yes. Then each principal was sent a memo, and most of them, I just heard from them, they were not happy with the fact that because we can't supplant, remember, federal funds are to supplement. Before they can hire any of these positions, they have to have 100% of their foundation units filled. So that's why you only see 2. You might see 2 positions there, because if they have not they don't have all of their teachers in place, then they're not allowed to use their Title I dollars to do any of the new positions. Now, will every school have this? No, because we really try to tailor make it for what we think will improve that school. Did they start to decide these positions? No. But when we sat in there, because we needed to hear, is this something that is doable? Is this something that is legal? Is this something that's gonna get us in trouble down the line? And because most of us are educators, we've been teachers, we've been principals, we've been assistant principals, we just need to see, is this something that we think will really impact what's going on at your school? Now, when they didn't sign something that's forever. It's for 1 year. If we don't see progress in 1 year, your position goes away. So it's really not about people, it's about the position that we think can improve that report card grade. The people before they took these jobs, we had to explain to them, every year we're gonna look. And if we don't see the improvements, this job will not exist anymore. And then what does that mean for you? And so we just real honest with it. So that's where it came from. I did because I knew that would be something that, because it's different. I'm gonna be honest with you, I've written so many of these. I actually pulled a report last week to see what was new on there, if any of them. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't think anyone would have it 100% filled. We did have 2 schools that had it 100% filled and wanted a Title I position, so I did print it out. If you'd like a copy of that, you're welcome to have it. Questions about it?
Are they under curriculum and instruction? That's there. Are they under the curriculum and instruction? I take it that's
Well,
wrong.
well, they will be working with curriculum and instruction, but they're paid out of Title I funding.
Okay.
And they're in the schools, is that right?
They will be in the schools, they will not be they're not part of our central office. Now, there will be someone in curriculum and instruction who will help us to monitor that. For example, because they're dealing with math and reading, the math and reading specialists from the district will be working closely with them, can help hold them accountable. Not only that, they can see if they're really pulling small groups, if they're doing these things. They can see if they're working with teachers and providing PD. That's another way to cater our PD directly to schools. Because now I have somebody in the school that's gonna be responsible for that. We're not relying on just the few people we have in the building.
I would like to know, when did we get that, I was told, this is just my ignorance, but when we have all these parents asking us questions about sending all these board members letters about why you would put somebody in a certified spot, when do we get, I don't wanna be out of line and ask a question that I can't ask her, but I thought this was the session that we got to go, hey, this parent has this problem, I agree with the problem, when do we get to discuss that? Or what point do we get to discuss that?
I think if I can try to answer that, right now you're dealing with the personnel report that has been reported to you.
So sometimes
We can do that on a work session, if that, and you can tell me what the actual
Is this a work
personnel.
session?
No,
We've already,
in the
we've already
work
got
session.
that. When was that?
When we, before we moved this in the regular.
When was that? That was the first day?
Yeah.
The first part.
That was the first part. With
You're
personnel.
talking low, if you're sitting over there.
Of course.
And we passed.
So, Mr. Chairman, you
Let's
have,
move on.
you have a vote.
Oh, yeah, okay, those who are in favor, let's see by show of hands. Of the personnel report, I didn't get a second there. We were in the part of the discussion. And then now, those who are in favor, let's see by show of hands. Okay, how many? We got 1, 2, 4. Opposed the same.
Abstention.
Abstentions?
I'm gonna go with the opposed, I'll go with it.
1 opposed, 1 abstention, we got 4, so that passes.
Thank you. Okay, so now we'll move to the next item, which is the personnel report. I recommend approval of the personnel report, support personnel.
I have a question, and I know I don't want to discuss this, but I have some concerns about S-28.
Speak up the rear, I can't hear.
S-28. I have some concerns, but I won't be able to go one way or the other because of the personal reasons. I was just concerned about the number of days. Is that what we do on the first time I was installed 5 days?
Depends on what the issue happens to be. So it could be, but it depends on what the issue is. So in this case, that's okay.
Is a motion in order, Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Mr. President, make a motion that we approve the superintendent's recommendation for the personnel report for support personnel.
And it's been moved and properly second that we approve the superintendent's recommendation of the personnel report. Any other discussions? Those who are in favor, let's see by show of hands. That is, all, opposes the same, 1 opposed, abstentions, 1 abstention. Passed. This meeting is now adjourned. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, August 28th, 2018, at 5 p.m. and we'll be here in the central office.